Nketiah, hey, your defense is in trouble. Nketiah, you know. Your defense is in trouble. Nketiah, you know. Your defense is in trouble. Nketiah, you know. Show me my all of the Nketiah, hey. Your defense is in trouble when Nketiah's in the room. Your defense is in trouble when Nketiah's in the room. You guys know what time it is. Welcome back to another episode of One Kick from Glory. We're in a jubilant mood. Another test passed. We're top of the class. Gary Neville's still a bit biased, but that's his life. It's One Kick from Glory. I'm joined as always by Craig, by Matthew, and Markus is with us, joining us. We're going to have some fun today. Nketiah's in the room. It's an Arsenal fan made that as like a tribute to Nketiah. I want to start with you, Craig. On the game, actually, Arsenal Man United. We're going to get into Nketiah praise some more in a little bit. But when you look back on the games we've had over the last few seasons, especially the game early in the season at the Old Trafford, how did you feel going into this game, and how pleased were you with how the team played?
Well, the first game we played against Man United, we shouldn't have lost that game. It was tactical decisions why we lost that game. We were 1-1, and Arteta made 3 substitutions. I think he brought on Vieira, Smith Rowe, and somebody else. I can't remember who the other person was. And then what happened was that Eriksen played a through ball to Rashford, and he scored the 2 goals.
Yep.
And I felt that if he had kept the same team out there that was started the game, maybe we would have won that game, because we battered Man United that game at Old Trafford. The 3-1 scoreline looked very harsh on us, but it was just 2 individual errors that cost us. On tactics cost us. This game on Sunday, we went 1-0 down. The old Arsenal would have folded, and then United would have scored a second and third goal. But when Arsenal were down to 1-0 down, I thought, we're going to come back in the game. I was watching it in the pub with my friends, and then United fans were all getting all happy or jumping and bombing. I said to them, just be quiet. Calm down a bit. And then we came back and we scored the goal equaliser. I thought, I told you guys, don't be shouting too much. Then we scored again to make it 2-1. I thought, And then the goal we conceded for the corner, a bit poor from Ramsdale. Could have, I don't know, he tried to punch it, and then I think Tomiyasu was in the way, and and then Martinez did the scooping header. Gabriel tried to clear it off the line. It was just one of the ones where couldn't do anything about it. It was a good goal, good header. And then when it came to the last kick of the game, I thought, you know what, we're looking stronger now. I thought it was gonna be a draw, but I thought, Arsenal kept on going for it. I think when he brought on Trossard, he made a difference with that goal. That pass he made to Zinchenko, and he crossed it in, and then Nketiah just flicked it in. Then I just went ballistic, and I was like, we won the game. United fans looked deflated. The players looked deflated, and it was a good win. Good win from what we had 20-something shots on target on the game. And if we didn't win the game, it would have been such a hard justice not winning that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the statistics of the match were quite interesting. We had, I think it was 25 shots to their 6. We had 20 shots in the box, and we only had 2 shots on range, which is quite remarkable. For how we dominated. I want to just jump over to you, Matthew, with the game. Obviously, the game started off in a way you would expect. Arsenal, usually fast starters, had a very, first minute or first couple minutes of the game, had a quick attack, showed our menace. Another day, we had a corner routine. Another day, Martin might be able to wrap a circle around it and put it in. But let's talk about the goal to make it 1-0. Markus Rashford, who, we talked about him last week on the podcast about him and the previous week about him and his mentors and how he's kind of got his game together now. He seems more focused. That goal, to me, the more I look at it, the more I watched it, it really is just a brilliant piece of play. For you looking back at it, and for me, it did give me shades of Cristiano with the way how he struck the ball. But the way how he picked that ball up and drove with it, for you, does it give you the kind of comparative feeling in the way that Hazard was for Chelsea back then, in the fact that this is the main guy and he will take a game by the scruff of its neck and make things happen?
First of all, shout out, it was a fantastic goal. And sometimes you have to stand back and marvel at what a good goal is. No complaints from the other opposition, defence, goalkeeper, whatever. Sometimes you got to be like, you know what, credit to you. That's a good goal. We'll get you back for that one. as for him taking on like the role of a Hazard role, but he is the man, that's always been the plan for this guy from the very moment he first stepped on their scene. We had that number 39 shirt. You all knew that this boy was special, that he had talent, that he had drive, and he had no fear. He was raw, but that's kind of when you want them, when they're just going to try anything, just pull something out of the bag and they don't know, what's going to happen. And this is the perfect thing for him, because this is almost like he's answering his destiny. He's now seen like one of the greats do it. We said it's a Ronaldo-esque goal, watching him, how he does it, watching how hard he works to get himself into that position under the perfect coach. And to see him finally almost reaching his potential. It's almost as if there's that little bit more to reach, because he's still a young boy. He's still a young lad. He's got time to, probably even get better still from then. So he will lead that line as he's always meant to be. And just watching him there's an excitement about him when he gets the ball. He's in such good form as well. And, scoring in such a high profile game where there's so much on the line. And he massively, he showed his worth, his talent, and the level of skill. And, he's clearly had time to kind of reflect and kind of come back into the fold of what is expected of him. So as a Man United fan, it's, I look at him Hazard's a very good comparison, because that's what we loved about him so much. When he was literally he could do anything, run at, little mini shots, long range, all that kind of thing. Obviously probably my favorite goal. There's two favorite goals that come to mind that remind me of that sort of thing. The goal against you where he said Coquelin spinning right round. I was
hoping you weren't going to mention that goal.
I'm spinning around, still spinning to this day. And the one against, I think one of his best ones was the last one against West Ham. How he got his feet in their position is I will never know. Do you know how many times I've watched that video and zoom in on his feet and watch how he does it? Do I know? Of course not. But, can Marcus Rashford reach that kind of potential? I think he can. He's under the right guy. They're going the right way. Their banter period is, I think they're very much out of it, but I don't think they're at the level where you guys are at right now, where everything's going the right way they want to. So, he's such a great guy to watch. I'm so happy to see that he's finally come back to reach, after that slump after the Euros and things like that, he's reached that kind of level that we never even get to.
Yeah, on the note of their banter era, I do agree. It has been very short-lived, and although, they still haven't won a trophy for a while since Mourinho, so in a way, they're still kind of in the banter era. They've got a massive game coming up, the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final tonight against Nottingham Forest. My view, they have to win it. I think that's going to be a project-defining trophy that they have to win. I think for Newcastle as well. I think for both teams, it could be the catalyst for what they do going forward. Newcastle could probably afford not to win it and be okay. Man United, I don't think so. I think it would be a major, major setback if they don't lift the Carabao Cup, especially considering the teams they've got. It's Nottingham Forest and then potentially Newcastle in the final. That's a massive opportunity. You got to take it. But I was talking to you about this, Marcus, about archetype of players, and we were referring to the young Liverpool midfielder and who he was kind of, I think it's Basecek. Apologize for his pronunciation, but in terms of what player he's kind of similar in terms of profile, not necessarily the level or the exact replica playing style, but the profile of player that he's similar to. And it got me thinking about Bukayo Saka, who I'm nicknamed aka Robben Lite, and I feel like this season in particular, he has unlocked the Arjen Robben gene. We've all known him as being, a good player at whipping in crosses, at sometimes coming in off the left foot. His shooting hasn't always been the best. Going down the outside, he's always good at cutbacks. And he's been okay with his dancing feet. But this season, and this match in particular, he seems to have unlocked that Arjen Robben, you know what I'm going to do, and there's nothing you can do about it. He had the goal when he cut in, beautiful goal, bottom left-hand corner. He had a second shot in the second half, same technique, but for a deflection, it would have been another goal. For you, Marcus, how impressed are you with Bukayo Saka? I know your manager likes him. Obviously, you can't have him, but how impressed are you with Bukayo?
Yeah, he's a very, very good player. And I think, this is, what I'll say about kind of a few of them players at Arsenal is, I think it was 2 years ago, I was having a conversation with a friend and I was saying, I don't think Arsenal have a world-class player in their team. Maybe Aubameyang is just about still world-class, but outside of that, I don't think Arsenal have a world-class player. And then I said, I think they have maybe three or four young players that are up and coming, that are heading in that direction. And who'd have known it only 2 years later, them three or four, young and upcoming players like Saka, like Odegaard, like Martinelli, buying a forward like Jesus, you look and you think, oh, actually now there's a real bulk of world-class talent in that squad. And, you see where it's taken Arsenal. Like, obviously, Saka has had a good season. I think, as it goes along, it's one of those things in his position where you really want him to be banging in 20, 25 goals a season at his prime. He's still not there yet. So he's heading in the right trajectory for that, I think, is Saka. And he does very much look like, kind of like you say, Robben Lite. And I think, talking about, these kind of stereotypes, I think one of the things that I was thinking about today was thinking about Nketiah and, the fact that he's came big in a big game there at the weekend, and he did something similar last season against Chelsea. And I think the perfect comparison for him is Divock Origi. Like, a player who really means a lot to the club, is a very good backup, never quite good enough to be the main man, but comes up big in big moments when you need him to come up big. Like, Divock Origi at Liverpool was never our main forward, but he scored 2 against Barcelona in the Champions League semi-final. He scored a Champions League winning final goal and kind of built a bit of a kind of cult, following at Liverpool. And I think Nketiah's got that potential on his cards to be that type of striker at Arsenal too.
Yeah, he's definitely really impressed me. I think ever since he went on the podcast, I think it was the Beautiful Game podcast he went on to, and he was saying how he just wants a chance to play. And he actually said, I've never had the opportunity to play 3 games in a row at Arsenal, and I know if I play 3 games in a row, I'll score. And what happened? First game he played in that last season, nothing. Second game, nothing. Third game, bags are Ross. And it's just the way he's been. And I think what's really nice that's been coming out today from articles about Arteta and Nketiah is how well Arteta and Eddie really sat down and explained to him the vision they had for him and the plan for him going forward. I think that was super important because, you look at it and, I remember when they announced that he got 100 bags a week, got the number 14 shirt. A lot of us fans were like, oh, hold on a minute. Listen, are we sure about that? Like, But you think about if you're going to go into the market for a second striker who is actually more prolific than our main striker and who's tracking to be our top scorer this season, like you'd have to pay an arm and a leg. In this market, you're looking at 60 million, maybe 70 million to get something that could, to get those kind of numbers. Otherwise, you're gambling on strikers. So I think he's done really well to kind of step in and I'm really impressed with what he's doing so far. And I think it's a testament to him as a player in everything that he's doing. But at the end of the day, as strikers, you got to feed off the goal. I mean, obviously there was a lot of Man United fans that were hopeful that his late winner was offside. But you know what? I think both of his goals were a testament to his movement off the ball and his predatory nature and how he's evolved as a striker. And I think that comparison to Origi is quite important because when the going was tough for Liverpool in that Champions League run, that famous season, Origi just came up. Actually, not even just in that season, but I think just across his time at Liverpool. When the going got tough, you need the goal. And cometh the hour, cometh the man. And Divock was there. And I think it's probably a shame that you guys weren't able to figure something out to keep him. Because I look at your squad now. And I mean, Origi really could have taken away the attention from Nunes. Like in these games when he's not scored.
Yeah.
If Origi comes on off the bench and bags a scruffy goal,
yeah,
how many extra points could you have gotten this year if you still had him around? Obviously, there's a lot of question marks over he would have been happy. And of course, that's on the proviso that, Jota and Diaz wouldn't have been injured, because if they were injured, he wouldn't be getting minutes. But, that's an option you don't have anymore, and it's just a major loss. But I'm really happy with Nketiah. I'm really glad that he has lived up to it. What I want to ask you, Matthew, is looking at how Nketiah is progressing so far. Firstly, do you think that when Jesus comes back, do you think there'll be an argument that Nketiah should stay in the 11? And second to that, will he be Arsenal's top goal scorer as a striker?
Well, he stepped in really well because everyone was wondering, Jesus to get injured, where the goals are going to come from. And so far, he hasn't really had much of an issue because they don't come from Nketiah, they come from somewhere else. But getting a goal like that in a game like that and the mentality like that, to have the kind of zones to do something like that, I don't think it's going to be too like fair to just oust him out in the moment Jesus comes in. Because like you said, Eddie's now got the potential to be your top scorer, if not, probably not leading there already. So with what you've got at stake here, not just top four, we're talking the T word as well. There's 18 games to go. It feels so long because of the World Cup, but 18 games can go very, very quickly between now and May, because I'm technically now at the end of January. Next league games aren't now until February. So for the sake of keeping the apple cart nice and straight, I think it's a case where Jesus has got to recognize that, look, Eddie's going really, really well. Like, you will come back, but it's just a case of, you're coming back from an injury. We want you back 100%. Don't rush back into it. Don't expect that you're going to come back and just start bagging away. You don't want to make the same mistake that Spurs did when they played Liverpool back in 2019. Harry Kane was dropped from the squad. They were much more dynamic with Son going down the middle. What happened the moment Kane got fit? He got back in that squad. And as a result, I think it's called the reason why we lost the game. Nketiah's in form. So why would you deny him that, for someone like in the position like he is, like the Origi-esque qualities he has, for someone who is like not only your main starter, but loves the club, will drive for that club, play for that club. We saw this from the back end of last year. Fortunately, he scored 2 against us. So it's a testament to his hard work and, your dedication to a club, which is somewhat of an unforeseen quality these days. So you kind of owe it to kind of keep him with him just that little bit longer. I'd start him. Obviously, he's going to start against Man City on the weekend. So, keep giving him those chances, because he's only going to get better. He's still young, so he's only really and truly, he can only get better.
And for you, Craig, do you feel like when Jesus comes back, do you think he'll come straight back in the team, or do you think Nketiah will stay in? I mean, when he's like fully fit, do you think Nketiah will keep his place? Do you think they'll just swap back out again?
I feel like they could rotate both of them. I feel like Nketiah should start. He's been scoring all the goals. And I think if Arteta brings like Jesus and starts ahead of Nketiah, his confidence will go down very low, and he's in good form, and you just want to build on I think with the way how Arsenal are playing with Nketiah right now, you can ease back. You can bring Jesus for like a 20 minutes or to regain fitness until he gets fully fit. So I'd rather keep Nketiah now because he's doing well. Well, the second half of the season we're going to have loads of games, Europa League, if we're still in the FA Cup. So you're going to have some games Nketiah will start, some games Jesus can start as well, because like cup games or Europa League. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the weird one, because I thought at the beginning of the season there were some league games where Nketiah would start. I think have we played Forest yet? We have.
Yeah,
I thought the Forest game he would have started, didn't. So for me personally, I think when Jesus is back, I think he'll come straight back in. Once he's fit, I think he'll start
Everton
straight away. I think. No, once he's like match fit and sharp again, I think he just comes back into the 11, because I think he's our best striker. I'm glad Nketiah is scoring the goals, and maybe he might end up with more goals than Jesus. I'm personally hoping, I've got a lot of riding on it, that Jesus will get that goal scoring touch coming back and will, can add 6 more goals to his current total, maybe even add 10 goals to his total. I'm not asking for too much.
Oh, to be honest, at this stage, it doesn't really matter. Just 1 more goal and he'll be ahead of Darwin. Darwin doesn't score goals.
Gabby Jesus, 10 more goals would be good for all of us. Me in particular, I have not a lot riding on it, but I've got very strong vested interest. My stocks are very heavily in you. I need this. I'll explain why another time. But move it. I think the last thing just to say about Arsenal. I have 2 more final things to say about Arsenal. I think first off, let's talk about the 2 players who have really stepped up massively in terms of their impact on the team. Alexander Zinchenko, and of course the captain Martin Odegaard. I think it goes without saying that Odegaard last season, a lot of fans were we wanted more. We knew he's highly technical. We knew he could do all the fancy stuff, or as a Burnley fan once called it, that tippy tappy BS. I don't know how that man's coping now. He must be having heart attacks every match. But but he's somehow found that goal scoring edge, which is what we always wanted from him. We wanted more output, and I love that he wants to score more. But he's not just shooting for shooting's sake. He's shooting at the right moments. Yeah. And then on the other side, he got Zinchenko, who, thanks to the wonderful pundit who was a rubbish manager, and we're going to get onto him, Mr. Gary Neville, felt like he was not a leader. And yet, when you look at Manchester City, you can see that they're missing. There's a Zinchenko-shaped hole in their team. And it doesn't necessarily mean on the playing pitch, but I think off the pitch, and especially that clip of him last season when he was rallying them up before their final games of the season, that speech he gave. I watched it this earlier today and I was just like, how can you look at this video and not think this guy's a leader?
Yeah.
But for you, Markus, what impact do you feel like both of them are having on this season? And do you think that the soft factors of them leading the team is driving and going to ultimately drive Arsenal to finally pick up, I know it's a long way to go, but finally pick up the Premier League title after so long?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Martin Odegaard is and has been Arsenal's most important player in these 18 games this season, as far as I'm concerned. He's obviously leading the team, but the goals he's scoring, the assists he's getting, but not only that, the way he's dictating the play, I think is so hard to find a player that does that. You know, you're looking at the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Mesut Ozil in his prime, like that type of player is so hard to come by that most teams just forget it and pretend that they're not going to bother in that position because they're such a unique, special talent. And I would go as far as saying, as far as I'm concerned, if Odegaard continues this form and Haaland continues his form and Arsenal win the league, Odegaard's player of the season. That's how good he's been this season. I think that's how much of an influence he's had on this Arsenal team this season. And everybody will say, you know, Haaland bags 50 goals, has to be, you know, player of the season. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, in a season where Haaland is the absolute freak, there is one contender for that player of the year, and it's Martin Odegaard if Arsenal win the league. So, yeah, and Zinchenko, you know, obviously comes from a team of winners, knows how to win. And that has been one of Arsenal's big problems, you know, since the, you know, early days of having teams filled with Keown, Vieira, you know, Tony Adams, you know, these guys, these types, even like Lumber, Perez, Henry, these types of players, you were never short of leaders. You look at the Arsenal team, you know, maybe since Arteta stopped playing, and, you know, you're starting to count them numbers, you know, very much on one hand. And, you know, you now look at this Arsenal team and, you know, they're getting that, you know, that like skeleton of leadership back. And, you know, Zinchenko is important in that process too. I saw he was giving the team talk before in the huddle before the game there to the players of the weekend. And yeah, I think it's very, very key. They're two very, very key players, but Odegaard being, I think, the most important.
Yeah, I think it's been great, the players we brought in. I think the fact that, I mean, you know, Zinchenko is not even part of the captain's group is amazing, but to me, he is one of the captains, you know, alongside Gabby Jesus, Granit Xhaka, Martin Odegaard, of course, Rob Holding, you know. But I think it's just been great just how the squad has been fleshed out and just how we've got this belief. And I think it transmits not just from the players and the manager, but it's definitely come across to the fans. I think for you, Craig, you said you watched the game in the pub the other day. Was there other Arsenal fans there as well, yeah? Mm-hmm. Did you feel at any point in time like the fans there were unsure about how the game would go?
No.
Like, there's just a difference to us. Like, I think we've got this perfect buy-in now where all or nothing has really helped us see that Arteta really gets Arsenal. He's as invested in Arsenal as we are as fans, like, and that's really important. And I guess for you, Craig, when you look at this season so far, you look at all the soft factors, look at how the Emirates is getting a redesign, updating the artwork around the Emirates Stadium. They've put up one piece of it, which is the Invincibles, celebrating the Arsenal men's and the Arsenal women's teams for their legendary seasons. When you think about how the club's ownership seems to get it and are transmitting that they understand how much our history is important. The players are playing like they understand what it means to play for the Arsenal. And lastly, as fans, we're reciprocating that. I mean, for me, I was touched by the moment when we went 1-0 down and look at everyone's reaction. I think someone said in the stadium that you couldn't see it on the TV angles, but Arteta immediately turned to the fans and was geeing. I say, come on, guys, just lift it. Odegaard was doing the same things, just like say doing that. Let's recycle. Partey was doing the same. Like every Gabriel, like no one, every one of them, none of them had their head down. It's like, we conceded. Okay, so what? So for you, do you feel like all of these little soft factors are important in building up what's happening with Arsenal this year?
I think it starts from last season. I think last season Arsenal were very unlucky not to get top 4 last season. The fans didn't turn on Arteta. Some fans did. Not everyone fan turned on Arteta. I think a lot of people, after he said they watched the Amazon documentary, everyone was like, you know what, he was right for doing this decision, that decision. As I said last week, I said a couple of weeks ago, he got rid of all the bad apples out of the team. He bought a young, hungry. He bought winners in the summer. Zinchenko, winner. Jesus, winners. And those players brought their experience to the club. Because I know like Gary Neville saying that Arsenal don't have experienced players, or winners in the team, or leaders in the team, he was saying. But I thought we've got leaders in the team now. And we've got the team sort of reminds me of when Arsenal in 02-03 season, when we lost the league to Man United by 5 points, I think it was. We were top of the table for a long time during the season. We lost against Leeds. The Harry Kewell handball goal. Yeah. So after that season, the next season we became invincible. And that's every game you can see that everyone's in the huddle and everyone was just, every game they'll just getting together. Vieira, Keown, Henry, Bergkamp, Perez. Everyone was in that huddle every game, encouraging each other to do well. It kind of reminds me of that team spirit, the disappointment of last season coming onto this season has made everybody together and want to win something this season. So that's why I see the difference between past and future and how everything's going to work itself out, hopefully.
No, it definitely feels like that. And I like the fact that you said that disappointment of last season is definitely fueling the team on to win something. And I think ultimately as professional footballers, as sports people, as athletes, one of the things that it's really good to compete is, but you want to set records. You want to have your name in history. You want to have something that you can look back on and say, they'll remember me with that. And I say all of that to switch over across to the lane. And of course, Harry Kane is now level on goals, total goals for Tottenham with Jimmy Greaves, the great Jimmy Greaves. And obviously, first off, that's an amazing achievement. I think Harry Kane is probably one of the best strikers in Premier League history by far. He's definitely one of the best England strikers of all time. One of them. I'm not going to say whether he's the best. I think that you can debate that however you want. But he's been a testament. He's been an ever-stay in the Premier League. But I feel like he must now be at a crossroads in his career. I think getting the Spurs record is important. And as we were talking about the fans at Arsenal, I think, as a player, knowing you got fans that love you, like Totti can go back to Roma and, he's the king of Rome. He knows that. And that's important. Messi can go to Barcelona and he's the king of Barcelona. The difference with those two players is that they've actually won stuff. I don't say that lightly, but I think it's important to point that out because a lot of people are trying to compare Totti to Kane this week, and it's like, they're both loyal, one player, one club players, but like Totti won trophies.
Yeah, and
he won the World Cup as well in 06. Like, let's not forget that Kane ain't won anything. So I say all of that because there's been talk recently about a new contract for Harry Kane. He's entertaining this idea. I want to go to you, Matthew, and over to you, Marcus. Do you think if he was to even dare consider signing on, even for one more year at Tottenham, do you think that will be the second biggest mistake of his career after not getting out 2 seasons ago?
This is his chance to go somewhere that I would say matches not necessarily his ambition, but that matches his talent, for someone that's going to surround him in what he deserves, which is so much better than what he's getting now, because we don't know if Conte is going to be there for much longer. Conte might be considering his options as well. And believe you me, if Conte's options are that good, he will go. So you don't know the man who's going to come in and look and recognize the talent that he has or make a Kane a better player. He has dragged and pulled this club, I think, as far as he can get. He's dragged him to near Premier League. He's dragged him to near Champions League. He's taken him to near FA Cup. He's taken him to near League Cup. It must be a common denominator knowing that this is as far as it is going to go. I know you have that allegiance and that thing to Tottenham, but it's not happening. And now, where that Man United are going, possibly, it may be time to consider his options and try and move on. They're on the up. The great days could be coming back again. And, same thing I think it's something about him going to Bayern Munich, which I think would be a fantastic shout. I think he'd be a fool not to try and entertain either one of those moves. So my guess is that he should probably try, I think if he doesn't go now, looking sometime in the summer, you're going to have to pay for him. But for his sake, if he wants that trophy in the cabinet, he's more likely to get it at either one of those two clubs or many other clubs. So, yeah, he needs to move on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think he does need to move on. I want to come over to you, Marcus, for two reasons on this. I think the first one, it's just a shame this year that because Kane is actually having a really good season. We've got 17 league goals this season. It's just a shame that in a year, again, it's just how typical is it of Tottenham? I remember the last time Tottenham were having I think it was like they're having their best start to a league campaign for 50 years. This is in the 15-16 season. Where were Arsenal first? Oh, shame. And then flash forward to now, Harry Kane's probably having one of his best starts to Premier League season for a long time. And who's ahead of him? Oh, Erling Haaland. Just forever the bridesmaid, never the bride. But for you, Marcus, on Harry Kane, obviously he's having an incredible season. He's scoring a lot of goals. He's, he'll most likely, and hopefully he will get the record against Man City in the next game. Not that we're hoping for Tottenham to win. I don't care. Do what you got to do. But if you could do yourself a favour, do it for yourself, not for us. Not for any of us in this room. We don't need your charity, but if you want to help us and help yourself, by all means, we won't say no to it. Do you think that he really needs to consider his next move? Because again, like this contract talk, when I read it, I was flabbergasted. Like, there's no need in the modern game to make these kind of commitments anymore.
Yeah, I think it's time for Kane to pack his bags and wander out of White Hart Lane forever. He's done what he can to help his hometown team, succeed. And, like Matthew said, close calls, Champions League finals, leagues. He's just not quite got over the line, and you can't say Tottenham haven't had some great managers in that time in the process of trying. Like, if you're not going to win any major trophy at Tottenham under Mauricio Pochettino, Antonio Conte, and Jose Mourinho, a man who in Jose Mourinho has won a trophy at every other club he's ever managed, then you just kind of have to think your luck is out. What I would say is that I think United are probably looking like a viable option for Kane again. I hate to say it, but it looks likely that they'll finish top four. And if they do, they're back in the Champions League, and having that Premier League aspiration with the goals and United being back in the top four and back in the Champions League, it might just be the right time for Harry Kane to go to United in the summer and help them bolster their squad and move on. Ten Hag's been saying all the right things in the press conference about wanting to build, the best team in England and then the best team in Europe and then the best team in the world. And it's not like Man United are going to ever really lack the money to go down that path. So I think, that could be a viable option. I also liked Matthew's call last week on Newcastle. However, I don't know how viable that move would be necessarily, but if they got Champions League football, then that also could be a feasible option. And obviously we know they have the money. So I think all in all, I think it's time for Kane to move on.
And I think it would be fitting for him to break Shearer's record for Shearer's hometown club. I think because I like the Premier League narrative, and this is where I think Sky Sports have got it wrong. Arsenal being back is a good thing. Stop hating on us. Stop nitpicking at our manager doing what every other manager has done in the Premier League. Klopp's done worse. He's run on the pitch. Tez hasn't done that yet. Okay? Mourinho has done worse. He pokes manager in his face. Tez has not done that yet. Conte and Tuchel had a little handshake war earlier in the season. He's not done that either. You see what I mean? Yeah. So there's levels to disrespect, okay? Arteta is just very passionate. He's not done the Simeone, has he? He could, but he hasn't. So let's just embrace the narrative that Arsenal are back. This is exciting. Wenger came back. There's so many storylines you can pick off here. There's so many storylines. Let's get with the program and stop hating on my team. Okay? If you're going to be negative, pick on Chelsea. All this money, where are they? Still 10th. Like, you have better targets to pick on. Leave us alone. All right. I say all of that because I want to talk about a Chelsea legend who lost his job this week. As we close out, Frank Lampard finally got fired. It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. Neville, Lampard, Gerrard, the golden trio, and not one of them. I mean, okay, let's pause there for a second, because I think Gerrard should not be lumped with the other two, because he was actually successful at Rangers. He won them something, and I think maybe he was a bit premature in leaving when he did. Now, you could argue it's a great opportunity. He wants to come to the Premier League, go to Aston Villa, and he had his ideas. But maybe seeing out the season at Rangers would have probably been a better move for him. So I put him in a separate category to Lampard and Neville. As for the man who can't, they say those who can't do, those who can teach. Well, Neville can't do, so now he's back talking. And obviously he's not doing a good job with that. But Lampard, I want to start with you, Craig. Do you think now that the dust is settled, he's lost his job again? I know. Oh yeah, it's twice. Wow, he's been fired twice by the Blues. Do you think now he needs to go back down to a lower level? Because there was a lot of debate online about his time at Derby, whether it was a success or a failure. Some would say it was a success because he got into the playoff finals, then missed out. Others would say with the squad he had, should have got them top three. This is a squad that had Mount, Abraham, and Tomori. How do you look back on Lampard's managerial career so far?
There's a saying: not all great footballers make great managers.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I don't know if I agree with it.
I feel that's an exception because Zidane was a great player and he won Champions League 3 times for Real Madrid. So some managers who are great players can work. I feel with Lampard, I don't think the Everton board really backed him financially either. They didn't really back him. They sold Richarlison in the summer. They didn't really back him to replace him.
I think last season they spent a lot of money
On average players.
And stayed up on the final game of the season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was lauded. He was lauded for bringing this Everton team together and finally staying up on the last game of the season. I've never seen a time in my lifetime where Everton fans have been going on the pitch, celebrating, staying up on the final game of the season like they'd won a trophy. And Frank Lampard got credit.
Because they beat us.
I know before your time, not before, when you're quite young, when 97-98 season they did the same thing as well. They were relegated. They were going to get relegated, and they finished themselves out in the last game of the season. And then all those years later, they're doing the same thing.
They got better players now.
I feel like Everton they're a big club. Don't get me wrong, they are a big club with big history, but I feel like they're not lived up to the amount of money they spent on players that they've wasted a lot of money on not so good players. And they got the neighbours down the road winning Champions Leagues and league titles.
Something's demonstrated.
So it must be painful for the Evertonians to what? No, on true facts though, like I feel like Lampard maybe he needs to go back and start again. Got a lower, maybe go abroad and work abroad something and build his reputation. I don't think he should get another job in England right now. What's his name again? The one who used to manage Middlesbrough.
Phil Neville.
No, not Phil Neville. The other one.
Wayne Rooney.
The Man United assistant manager, Steve McLaren. When he went to Holland and he won the title in Holland, and he came
after getting kicked out by England.
Yeah, and he rebuilt his reputation. I think he should go maybe to a Dutch team or maybe a foreign team, maybe Italian team, just to rebuild his reputation and start again.
I want to interject in there. I think to say he needs to rebuild his reputation is probably the issue. I don't think he has a reputation as a manager so far. So I think he needs to build his reputation first, and then he can think about expanding on. I think for you, Matthew, because you had him as your manager, he won you a trophy.
He got us to a final.
Got you to a final.
But he got to the top four.
Top four. And
no Hazard, no money.
FA Cup final against Arsenal.
Yeah. So he got you close enough.
Yeah.
Looking at how things have transpired at Everton, do you think a lot of the issues are similar to what you faced at Chelsea? And where does he need to go from here?
Well, he's clearly not very good at spending the money because he's spending money on all these players and he doesn't seem to know what he has when he gets there. So, and unfortunately, that uncertainty, as we've seen with ourselves, filters down. And when you don't know when, you're next starting or what the manager's thinking, it can affect the club. They're now in the best part of their 19th now, aren't they?
Yeah.
With a rag type of group of players, but no offence, should not be anywhere near there. I'm not saying they're going to be in the top 10, but it should not be 19 because you got they got Buendia. Is it Buendia? They got Buendia or someone?
No, Buendia's Aston Villa.
They got Mope. They got Mope. Damari Gray.
Onana.
Pickford. Onana.
Anthony Gordon,
who might be coming to us again. They got a group of players there that shouldn't be where they are. Because remember, when he left Chelsea, we were 9th, And we just had the likes of, Ziyech, the likes of Havertz, the likes of Werner. So clearly maybe he's working with a group of players that when he spends all that money, he can't necessarily work with. As for him going into another club, I don't think he needs to necessarily go abroad. I think he could just drop down back to a league, because clearly Derby was his happy place because he was given that kind of roam to work with the kind of players that he necessarily wanted, more home. I think he's good with homegrown players because that's something that he understands. I think he relates to the players that when they come up through the ranks, the likes of, Mount, the like of Tomori, maybe the likes of Abraham. I think he had Harry Wilson as well. He had Harry Wilson as well. So clearly he knows about something about up and comers like grassroots club football. So he could go somewhere abroad, but it could be good also seeing him somewhere like the Championship, a club that's going to give him time to establish what he can do. Because clearly, we can call, he didn't win the final, but he got them there. And he didn't, 2 times into a final, he got us there, but he didn't win it. So maybe it's just a case of he gets to a certain point. It's like he lapses on certain areas to get to that next level. So maybe a drop down league, maybe even 2 leagues might suit him a little bit well. It'd be interesting to see him say about a club like, QPR. It'd be very interesting to see him at somewhere like that. I'm not necessarily saying they'd go for something like that, but with a club like that has aspirations of getting back to the Premier League, but it's unfortunately like a wrong part of the table, working with and knowing a lot of grassroots players to bring to a club like that to help bring that kind of environment back could be interesting to something to see. I'm only using QPR as an example, but I think that's where, he needs to kind of work out. I mean, that's where Company is. It's good enough for Company with Burnley, and now look at them, top of the Championship. So maybe it's just a case of him, find that kind of level. Maybe the Premier League's just not for him. Maybe the Premier League's just not for him. Maybe that Championship level is where he's going to establish himself as that kind of guy that can get you there. The likes of a Neil Warnock, the likes of Ian Holloway, who can get you there, but keep staying there might be the kind of that might be the difficult thing. So maybe he just kind of needs to go back and start all over again to establish some kind of reputation.
Yeah, I think he definitely should. Any closing thoughts from you on Frank Lampard?
Yeah, if I was a Championship club trying to get promoted, I wouldn't hire Frank Lampard. Nothing more to say.
Cool. My last thing to ask you all, so as like a nice little aside before we close the podcast, you got to choose between 2 different 5-a-side teams.
Okay.
A Dutch, I'm going to name the players so it makes it a bit easier. It's going to be a Dutch all-star team versus a France all-star team. Which team are you picking? So in the Dutch all-star team, we have Dennis Bergkamp, Ruud Gullit, Marco van Basten, Ronald Koeman, and the late, great Johan Cruyff. In the French 5-a-side squad, we have Michel Platini, Patrick Vieira, Lilian Thuram, Thierry Henry, and Zinedine Zidane. Who are you picking, France or Holland? I'll start with you, Craig.
Oh, that's a hard one, man.
I'll pick one quick. Don't take
Netherlands.
France or Holland? Here you go. Holland. Matthew, France or Holland? Based on those 5 players, 5-a-side team.
Go for France. Why not?
France. Marcus, France or Holland? As 5-a-side team. France. Oof. So we got 2 France, 1 Holland. Whatever team has Omri, Vieira, and Zidane, I'm there, innit? I love Cruyff, man. He's a legend. Bergkamp's my guy. But listen, Omri, Zidane, and Vieira, it's not even a contest, man. We'll see. Vieira will have Cruyff in a headlock. We're good. Bergkamp and Omri will be chilling on the side of the pitch. Everyone else will be playing. It's all good. All right, and on that note, thanks everyone for listening. Do you agree with us? Do you feel like Bukayo is developing into Robben Lite? Do you think Harry Kane needs to move on, or should he stay and suffer or succeed at Spurs? We'll see which S happens. And last but not least, do you think Frank Lampard should take a sabbatical from football altogether or go to the MLS? We'll find out next time on next episode. See you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.